Hello, everybody. The warmest of welcomes to day 2 of IBTMWired. It's fantastic to know that so many of you are tuning in from around the globe for this brilliant start to our knowledge program here on day 2 Americas. So welcome, everybody, particularly if you are over in the USA. But obviously we do have lots of you from elsewhere. So let us know where you're watching from. It's fantastic to know that you're all there, even though we can't be physically together. Now, some of you will probably have joined us yesterday in Singapore, whether that was in the live audience from the Marina Bay Sands Hotel, or indeed from your desktops, your laptops, your phones, wherever in the world you might have found yourselves yesterday, or even maybe watching on catch up. And I'm sure you agree, it was so heartening and brilliant to get that sense of a live event again, see people in the room, a real great sense of connection together. It was wonderful and definitely gave me a wonderful sense of hope. Now, as I said, this is day 2 and we've got a load lined up for you. But one thing I'm particularly enjoying is seeing some of your commentary on social media. I know we can't be together, but it doesn't stop us from being able to feel as if we're part of the same event, that we are here together, we're joined in this wonderful wired world that we're all belonging to for the next few days. So do pop your thoughts and comments into social. Give me a little tweet on Twitter, send a little post on LinkedIn, maybe use Instagram, show me a screenshot of maybe where you're dialing in from, and you can use the hashtag IBTMWired so we can get a sense of how you're doing, what's resonating, and also maybe a bit of a glimpse of your lovely faces, because that's the bit I miss most. So I'm just imagining you all right now. So give me some pictures, give me some Twitter love perhaps, and we'll do some shout outs later on as well. It's great that you're all here. So turning to the start of day 2, we have a jam-packed agenda. There is so much going on in this knowledge program, so make sure you've checked out that schedule. Make sure that you've added them to your own personalized agendas, because there's so much education and inspiration in store, with some brilliant speakers and some really engaging and insightful sessions as well. So yeah, give those a little check out on the platform. And remember too that in lots of those sessions, you can ask questions. And again, this is where we really would love for you to engage with us, to make sure that you are part of these conversations. So you'll see that little Q&A function. You can pop your question in, and we'll get to as many of those as we possibly can in the sessions with the speakers who are able to manage some Q&A too. That would be absolutely fantastic. So without further ado, we are going to kick off with the first of our speakers today, our keynote speaker, who has a really fascinating, entrepreneurial, human, interesting journey. I mean, I'm just going to read you a little bit of his background because it's quite extraordinary. Some of the things he's already done and achieved. He's got a wealth of professional and social and entrepreneurial experiences. And his also background is in public relations, journalism, music and entertainment, technology, and brand management. So not just one thing, many, many things. And he's going to draw on those insights for us today. These perspectives that he has have created a really rich seam of expertise. And today, he's really going to inspire us to develop a positive mindset every single day. We've all been through such challenging, unprecedented, difficult, you choose your word, choose your adjective, but these times have not been normal. And he's here to help inspire us and motivate us to turn those challenges into opportunities by really being aware of the way we approach things and our mindset that we bring to these situations. So without further ado, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome, to join me on my stage screen, I guess we could call it that, or screen stage perhaps, the wonderful Mr. Paxton Arnold. Aaron, it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us. There you are. It's great to see you. And I'm going to hand over to you, but we're going to join this conversation a little bit later on together to have some more dialogue. Enjoy chatting to our wonderful audience. Take it away, Aaron.
Yes, well, thank you, Miriam. I appreciate it. We are twins today because we were wearing the same color, so that is awesome. And then I need you every morning when I wake up to introduce me, because wow, that was just such an amazing introduction. And thank you, and I appreciate it. And hello, good morning, or good afternoon, depending where you are in the world today. It's truly a blessing and an honor to be here. Never did I imagine when I was growing up as a kid, or even matriculate through high school or college, that I would be doing the things that I'm doing now. So it's just truly an honor to be here, especially considering what happened last year in 2020. Obviously, as Miriam said, so many unprecedented things happen. So many bad things happen, so many challenging things happen, so many trash things happen, we might say. But one of the things that I've always believed in, and I'll get into it in a second, is I've always believed in having that positive mindset and having that filter, and where it doesn't matter what anybody throws at you, when you put it through that filter or that prism, that you will always come out on top, because that mindset is positive. And I believe that thoughts are important. I believe that words are important. I believe you attract what you think. I believe you attract the things that you say and that you believe. So welcome to Trash to Treasure. My name is Paxton Arnold. And, how did I even get here? My dad always says, if you put your problems in the middle of the table where everybody else's, you'll always take yours back. And he told me that probably when I was like in 7th grade, probably I was too young or maybe too immature to truly understand what he was talking about. But as I got older, I truly began to understand that, there are so many people in the world that even from the time I was in 7th grade to now, that would love to have my perceived issues or problems. And I always said, I've never had a bad day in my life. I've had challenging days, but I've never had a bad day in my life. There are people in this world that are truly experiencing bad things. And so that's why, I titled this Trash to Treasure, because everything that has come at me that has been perceived to be negative or challenging, by the grace of God, just by sheer fate, just by positive attitude, I've always been able to turn that into treasure. And so I can take you back to 4th grade. I had a teacher, Miss Goldenberg, and I was auditioning for Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. So anybody that knows Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, obviously it was like a cult classic back in the days, and they reprised it. But I auditioned for Willy Wonka. And before I could even audition, my teacher told me that I was not smart enough to audition for Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And I remember going home. I remember crying to my mom. And of course, my mom takes me immediately back up to school, and she closes the door. She gives my 4th grade teacher some choice words, but I always remember her coming out and grabbing me by the collar and telling me to never let anybody dictate your value or your future. And so fast forward to 2 years later, when I was in 6th grade, I had an opportunity to audition for another play, The Pied Piper of Hamelin. And I remember I got this big script, and my counselor was like, I want you to audition for this. And I remember I began crying. And so I went home, and my parents were like, you have to do this. You have to audition for this play. I had no idea that I could do it. I didn't think I could do it, because in the back of my mind, I had my teacher, my 4th grade teacher, telling me that it was not possible. But I did. I memorized my lines. I auditioned for the lead role. I actually got the lead role. And honestly, if it's not for those moments right there, I don't believe that I am where I am today, because that, from 6th grade on, gave me the confidence to do some of the things that even now that I've been able to do. And so it's so amazing the things that happen in our childhood and how they even affect us in our adulthood. But that's how I began to develop my positive mindset and understand that whether it's personally or professionally, the trash, it could be a relationship. I'm sure we've all been in relationships where, we've been the exes or had exes or people that just didn't perceive us, or even jobs. But we might have been trash to somebody else, but we had another opportunity that was waiting for us that eventually became the gem, or eventually became gold or treasure. And so, as we look to 2020, as we look now in 2021, and we look what happened last year, I know so many of us became discouraged. So many of us were confused. I know I went through a point in time where I was extremely, extremely nervous. Like, I actually had a week where I was just panicking, like, what do I do? Because everything that I do, from speaking to hosting to everything, was just completely shut down. And so I had no idea what I was going to do. But what began to happen, 2020 for me allowed me to slow down and really kind of take heed of what I needed to do and for my future. And so the one thing that I was able to do is I was actually able to go back to school. I was able to pursue a dream, or something I had been kind of playing around with really for the last 5 or so years, which was I wanted to become a television and show writer, in particular in the genre of comedy. And so my fiance, my soon-to-be wife, and she encouraged me, and several other of my friends were like, Aaron, why don't you just go to Emory, which is here in Atlanta where I reside, and take classes. And I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't been a student. I haven't actually physically been in a classroom as a student since I graduated from college, which is a really long time ago. And so, but I did it. I enrolled in these classes, and it was, I had people that were older than me. I had people that were much younger than me. I took the classes very seriously because obviously I was paying for the classes. So, that was definitely something that I wanted to make sure I got my return on investment. But it changed my trajectory. It changed my whole outlook. It changed my whole perspective. So, after I completed my classes and I received my certificate, I was able to land my first writing job. And since then, I've been able to I've pushed out 3 scripts, 2 television pilots, and I'm working on a feature film right now. And so none of that would have happened if, honestly, 2020 hadn't happened, and if I just hadn't taken time to slow down and also kind of survey and take heed of the people who are around me. I've always believed you're only going to be as successful as the people that you keep around you. And it's not the people that tell you what you want to hear, it's the people that tell you what you need to hear. And so I was fortunate enough that I had people around me that told me what I needed to hear. When I was kind of down in the dumps, they're like, Aaron, get up. There's nothing wrong with you. You have your health, your bills are paid, you have a roof over your head, your family's good. So do what it is that you need to do to be successful through this pandemic in 2020. And so I encourage everybody, especially all of you guys that are in the event space, to kind of look back and retool and rebrand. I wrote an article for Forbes called My 90-Day Rule, and I wrote it actually back in 2012. And the premise of that was, if you're stagnant or miserable in a job or anything like that, or even if your business or your brand has become stagnant and not moving for 90 days straight, that on day 91, you have to make a move. You have to make a change. As drastic as it might seem, you must do that, because I believe if you think about it in business terms, that's a whole quarter of you just not being productive. Like, that is just to me, that's scary. And so the premise of the article, the 90-day rule, was like, okay, look, on day 91, make that change, whatever it is. And I've always believed, no matter what you believe in, I believe that when God wants you to grow, or when the universe wants you to grow, God makes you uncomfortable. And so 2020 for so many of us was so uncomfortable. But all of us that are watching, all of you all that are watching right now, and me being here, the fact that we are here, that means that we have a greater purpose in this world. And so for all of you guys in the event space, technology really, all of us that may, are early adopters of technology, like me, like I love technology, like I've depended on technology to build my brand and succeed in my career. But for some of us that were maybe kind of resistant about technology, whether it's streaming or Zoom or some of the other tools that we now use that have become part of our day-to-day, technology kind of really showed us that, look, we can still do our jobs. It might feel different. It might be different. Like, I would love to be in front of everybody right now, because right now I'm actually just looking at a black screen and a camera and whatever is behind me. But I would love to be able to see people smile and shake hands and give hugs and things of that nature. But you take that trash and you turn it into treasure. And so I'm still able to sit in front of you guys and deliver my message, and hopefully give you the energy that I walk around with every single day. And so, I think when it comes to the event space, so many people are engaged online. So many people are now willing and comfortable to attend events virtually. So it's just about us, just like we're doing today. So it's just really about us being flexible. It's about us being open-minded, and understanding that, like, times change, things change, and so forth. And the people that don't adjust are the people that get left behind, which is truly the reality of all of our situations. And so, again, I truly believe that's why you have to have that trash to treasure mindset. And the other thing too, like, there's nothing wrong with being scared. There's nothing wrong with being nervous. I was extremely nervous this morning. I speak for a living, and I'm always nervous. It doesn't matter whether I'm speaking to you guys or I'm speaking to a group of third graders on career day, because I care about what I do. I care about you guys, and I want to make sure that I do the best job possible. But take that nervous energy, and you take that nervous energy and you channel it in the right way. You dare to do something that you haven't done before. You dare to take, you want to go from good to great, which is one of my favorite books, by the way. Jim Collins, Good to Great. I encourage everybody to get that book. It truly changed my life. And I'll tell you how it changed my life, because to go back to my story and how I even got started, I'm from the South Side of Chicago. I actually went to Florida A&M University, where I studied journalism and PR, and I minored in marketing and business marketing and theater. So when I came out of college, I thought I was going to just do public relations for the next I don't know, 30, 40 years of my life. And then I would retire and, have the American dream and so forth. I got to a point where I was at my fourth PR agency. I was making the money that I always dreamed or fantasized of making. And at that point in time, I became extremely miserable. And I couldn't understand because I was 25 at the time. And I couldn't understand that I had all my bills paid. I had, everything I wanted, everything I needed, but I was not happy. My spirit wasn't filled. My soul was not fulfilled. And so I quit that job and I took an unpaid internship at a record label called Bad Boy Records, and then eventually an unpaid assistantship with Sean Combs, because that was the only way that I could get in the door. And my whole goal in doing that, really, I just wanted to be that next generation of entrepreneurs and executives. And so I wasn't built for grad school. I think, me in the classroom, we just didn't mix. And so for me, the best way to learn was to watch the people that were doing it and had done it. And so for me, the trash part of it was, okay, I lost a great salary. The uncertainty of how am I going to eat every day? I was probably on the verge of being homeless several times while I was living in New York. But the treasure was that literally the sky was the limit. All of a sudden I'm working for this global icon, and because he's a global icon, it gave me access to so many people, so many things, and it opened my eyes up. And so from there, I was able to launch a company called Music Is My Business 2 years later after working for Mr. Combs and at Bad Boy Records. And I was able to secure clients like the United Nations World Food Program, work with Grammy Award winning artists, major brands like McDonald's and Heineken and so forth. And so all of these things I had never imagined doing coming out of college, but all of these things I would have never been able to do if I had not taken that chance and left my PR agency and really started over. I've started over 3 or 4 times since I've graduated from college. And I know there's a thing where they're like, don't start over, or you need to do this for X amount of years so that people can take you serious. But I just always believe, especially now in this day and age, like just be happy. Focus on, I don't chase money, I chase happiness. And because I've chased happiness, I've had like the most amazing life to this point. I've had the most, in my opinion, unorthodox but amazing career to this point. And so, some people will say that, like people will ask me like, well, what were you scared? Were you afraid? Absolutely. Every single day, I was like, okay, how am I going to eat today? But I figured it out. God has never failed me. God has never let me down. I truly believe that. So they say Charles Darwin says necessity is the mother of invention. Well, I've always had a necessity to want to be happy. I refuse to be miserable because, as we've seen in 2020, life is way too short. And so think about that as you're going through your day. And we're like at the midway point in 2021, coming out of a crazy year in 2020. But think about that, even if for some of those of us that are still stagnant, still feeling the pain and the angst of what happened in 2020, it's okay. You're normal. But at the same token, understand that like you've been blessed enough to wake up today. You'll be, God willing, blessed enough to wake up tomorrow. And so I always tell people, like, make sure that do something today, so when you go to sleep tonight, you'll have something that you didn't have this morning. And that's always my goal. It could be reading a book. It could be watching a movie. It could be meeting someone. It could just simply be, at this conference, but always make sure that you're one step ahead than you were the day before, the week before. And, obviously as event planners, you guys are very methodic in doing what you do, but, everything doesn't have, Rome wasn't built in a night. And so I have a thing where if I accomplish something once a week, but I do it consistently, now I've done it. Now I have something that I didn't have 4 weeks ago. And what I had didn't have 4 weeks ago, now has become this big movement. And so it's almost like a snowball effect, if you say. And I just believe you have to have that mindset. I believe life is too short. I believe those of us that are happy, those of us that are successful, truly know how to turn trash into treasure. I know the big thing now is, recycling and so forth. So sometimes you have to recycle your spirit. Sometimes you have to recycle your career. But when you recycle it, you come out better than you were before. And not be afraid to grow. Don't be afraid to take that class. If you're older, don't be afraid to go back to school or tap into maybe some of the younger people that are more prone or apt or early adopters of technology. Don't be afraid to mentor people, whether they're younger or older. I mean, so many people need help, but also don't have too much pride to be mentored and receive help. Last year, one of the things that I take pride in is I have an amazing network. And I always had pride where I didn't want to ask for help. But last year I asked for help and people stepped up and helped me. And, you know, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys if people hadn't helped me. And it wasn't just necessarily career wise, but tapping into those people. Like if my spirit was down, you know, I have this thing, which I encourage everybody to do. I call it a spirit check. And it's just checking on your friends or your network, just simply asking how they're doing, because you could have all the money in the world. You could be set would be successful, because I've just always known, like, you know, again, I always go back to that fourth grade analogy that I gave you guys. When I went through that experience, I always knew that the universe and God had a plan for me, and that any other obstacle that I would go through, I would be okay. You know, I'll be frank with you. In my senior year in high school, I was arrested. I was arrested for just doing something stupid, but it was the greatest thing that could have happened to me, because it happened to me right before I went to college. And so I learned so many lessons from that experience. I learned, one, I learned humility. Two, I really began to appreciate my parents who has made so many sacrifices. But the other thing is I realized that I had something to lose. So as a 17-year-old kid, you think you're invincible. And so I look at, if I had gone to college with that same mentality of feeling invincible, I mean, I don't know if I would have made it out of college, because then I would have been 18, I would have been out of state, and the stakes would have been a lot higher. You know, fortunately, I was 17, I was still a minor. So, you know, I was able to get off, my record be expunged. And by the time I got to college, I was okay. But again, that was a trashy situation that I was able to turn into treasure. So it's really on you as the individual, and even collectively as a group, you know, how you perceive things, how you go about your day, because nothing is perfect. I've always said there's never a great time to take a perfect opportunity. You know, even when I left my corporate job and I took an unpaid internship at Bad Boy, like I had just gotten married, you know, all these things were happening, and everybody was telling me not to do it, with the exception of a few people. But one of my favorite movies is The Matrix. And there's a part where Neo, who's the main character, has to take the red pill or the blue pill. And I think, and one of the pills keeps you kind of blinded from the truth, and the other pill opens you up to the truth. And so I guess I took the pill that opened me up to the truth. And if I don't, I wouldn't be here today. You know, I've been able to speak at colleges and universities that I probably couldn't have gotten into coming out of high school, from Harvard Business School to USC to Howard Law. You know, in my mind, I'm still like this kid from the South Side of Chicago. And so to be here, to have a daughter that's in college, a sophomore in college, to have a 10-year-old son, and just to see that they're doing well, like, you know, I've always, you know, by the grace of God, always been able to figure out a way to turn my trash into treasure. And so when I look at the world, when I look at what's going on in the world, I have absolutely nothing to complain about. Yes, I do get stressed, of course. Yes, I do have my moods or something like that, but I always go back to what my dad told me. I watch the news, or sometimes I just scroll through Instagram or Facebook, and I just see all of the people that are hurting, all the people that might not have jobs or just may have lost loved ones. And I realized that, like, you know what, those people would love to have my challenges right now. So I immediately find a way to change my mind and my mindset, and I go about what I need to do. So if there are any questions, please let me know. I know Miriam's watching right now. Hey, there's my twin. Hey.
I'm there. I'm here. And do you know what? The funny thing as well is that you auditioned for Willy Wonka, and I played Grandpa Joe in my school production of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So there you go. Right.
Sounds like we have a partnership going, you know, coming soon. I don't know what we'll do. We could be Oompa Loompas, because we're like in purple.
I think you need to be a bit more orange to be an Oompa Loompa. Listen, Aaron, this is really insightful, very informative, very inspirational, very motivational. And I'm really conscious there's often a massive gap between the theory of, we all have to be positive, we have to have a great mindset, we've got to, you know, think the best, and how you go about doing that. Now, you seem like the sort of person who perhaps is naturally quite positive, quite outgoing, able to see the opportunity and the silver linings. But there must be some really tangible, specific exercises or activities or practices to enable somebody who wants to change their mindset and be more positive, but perhaps struggles to do so. What would you say to them?
Right. Well, the first thing is I have this thing called, and great question, thank you so much. I have a thing where I call it a contact audit, where I literally go through my phone and I just look at all the people that are not good for me. It might be my best friend. It could be my parents, even though Mom and Dad, I love you. But anybody that is not good for you in your space, and look, we all outgrow people. It's just part of life. That doesn't mean that you think that you're better than them or that they're less than you. But it's all about the energy and the people that you attract. And I truly believe you become what you are around. And so I think the main thing for me was continuing to put myself in a place or in spaces or places where I was surrounded by people that were positive, people that were willing to be great and wanted to be great. I remember being in even being at the radio station when I was on the morning show. At times when I was around certain people, I felt stagnant. I felt that certain people that I was around didn't want to be great, and it drove me crazy. And so for me, I was dedicated to. I made sure that my next time I need to be around people that, and honestly, are better than me, where I could learn from. It doesn't matter whether they're younger, older, or my age. You have to surround yourself with people that are pushing themselves, because that's the only way you can push yourself. Like when I look at the Olympic trials and I see all these records being broken, these records are being broken because they're with other greats that are pushing them. And so you have all these new runners, these new track stars that are going against some of the all-time greats and beating them, and their times are great because they're being pushed. And so I think if you use that, consider it like you're running track, and sometimes you win the race, sometimes you might come in second, but even if you come in second, you still achieve a certain level of greatness or success because you are around people that are just doing extremely amazing things. And that's, to me, that's what this is all about.
And for somebody asking now, how do you find that confidence to reinvent yourself? How do you have to have a trigger moment? Do you have to find something external to yourself? But somebody who really wants to change their mindset, wants to turn their trashy situation into something that is much more something to be treasured. What do you do to find that confidence?
Early on, it was, I had some phenomenal mentors and peers that would kind of, they just help build you up and just remind you who you are. And nowadays, I have an amazing fiance who will never let me hold my head down. So again, the people that you stay around are important, but sometimes it might be as simple as watching a movie, listening to a song. Honestly, sometimes I'll go back and watch some of my old interviews, whether it's like CNN or something like that, and I'll just remind myself, hey, you're pretty awesome, and it might sound arrogant or cocky or something like that, but you have to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. So I've never. I have moments where I have depletions in my confidence and so forth, but I try to remedy that really quickly. I never go 24 hours without reminding myself who I am and all the blessings that I've received and how all the awesome things. And I say that with humility, but again, you have to believe in yourself. I always say nobody can promote yourself. Nobody can tell yourself your story better than you. Especially if you're thinking about event planning, all of you guys are experts in your space. All you guys are experts in your market. No one can do it better than what you can do, which is why you're here. And so always remember that. It might change how we do it or how you do it, but no one can do it better than you, hands down. And so I think the cool thing about where we are, we're close to 8 billion people on the planet, and all of us have different DNAs. And so even if you're a twin, you have a different DNA from your twin. And so I find that fascinating. And so I say that because the DNA of who you are is your story. And nobody has your story. And that is the value. That is always the value proposition, no matter who you are. There are other people in this world that have phenomenal inspirational stories, but I know nobody has Aaron Paxton Arnold's story. And so because I know that, I've branded myself as such, I've packaged myself as such, and I carry myself as such. And it's gotten me to this point.
I think that comment you make about having to invest in our own sense of self, our own self-confidence is so key, because often the negative can weigh much heavier, can't it, than the positive? And yet when we need the positive, we don't necessarily have thought about it enough in advance to go and access it. Right. So, we know that somebody thought we did a great job at that conference 3 years ago and we got a lovely email, but we don't necessarily have it to hand. And I think maybe some of those practical things can really help, have that kind of praise book, or have a little file on your computer where you keep all the great things that someone has said to you, so you can access it really quickly when you need it. Because I guess you must do some of those practical things to keep your mindset positive, mustn't you?
I think it's about perspective. And I just credit my dad. This is always, I look at all the things that, especially when I was younger, that I did where I was like, Aaron, you were such an idiot for doing that. It's just purely because I lost perspective, right? And so I will be completely transparent. In 2015, I had a panic attack. If it was not for my daughter finding me, I would not be here today. And
Wow.
so that woke me up. So the one thing I do want to touch on is protect your spirit and protect your mental health. That is so important because without that, we have nothing. And so it gave me perspective because I had too much pride to call somebody and tell them what I was going through. As a man, I'm like, I got to be a man and all that other stuff. What I should have done is just picked up the phone and called anybody, but it was 5 a.m. in the morning and I just let everything get the best of me and it almost killed me. And so from then on, I was like, whoa, that's never happening again. And so I find things every single day, whether it's a person, whether it's a book, whether it's a movie, whether it's working out, whether it's playing video games. I love PS5. Thank you. But anything that can de-stress you and bring you back down to earth and give you perspective. And the perspective at the very least is you're here today. There are people that didn't wake up this morning. There are people that didn't make it home last night, but you are here today. So as long as you're here today and you're blessed enough to wake up in the morning, you can literally change and fix anything and everything that was wrong or didn't go right the day before. And I always tell people it's not that easy, but it is that simple. And so I believe, it's the whole thing. Kids keep it simple, stupid. Another little lesson from my dad. And so you don't have to overcomplicate things. I think sometimes as professionals, especially those of us that are overachievers, we have a tendency to always want to go to the moon, but sometimes the answer is literally walking around the corner. And that's it. And so for me, I've had to learn how to simplify things and just say, hey, Aaron, you're going to be all right. It's not the end of the world. Do what you have to do. In some cases, humble yourself because, pride, humility is the greatest teacher, right? And so sometimes I've had too much pride. Sometimes I felt like I shouldn't have to call this person or I shouldn't have to reach out to this person. Look, Aaron, humble yourself and let's fix whatever challenge that you're going through so that you can move forward because stress kills. Stress kills. So I just encourage everybody, protect your spirit first, whatever that is. And then everything flows. Work gets better, your health gets better, your relationships, whether it be in a marriage or so forth, gets better, your relationships with your friends or your kids get better. It is a trickle effect, but it has to start with you.
It's a really big topic at the moment, isn't it? That idea of self-care. Preserving and protecting our mental health, you talk about your spirit, however people maybe see and perceive this idea that we have to invest in ourselves and our own wellness as well. And do you have any other than, you've talked about your faith, which is brilliant and such an obvious bedrock for how you live your life and how you choose to see the world. And outside of that, do you have any daily practices? Do you have anything that you do to kind of keep yourself well and healthy and your spirit in a really great state?
I have another practice. I just have conversations with one or two people every day about life. It could be my dad, it could be my soon-to-be wife, it could be my son who's 10. Anything that is positive or sometimes you get inspiration from you're able to help somebody. There's been plenty of times where I've called people thinking that I was going to talk about my issues and I've actually helped them with theirs. And so that is very therapeutic. Even having an opportunity to be here today, one of the things that I love about speaking, especially when I go to colleges and universities, I've literally had students that have said I was about to commit suicide the day before, and coming here has given me hope. That is so powerful. That is so powerful that the world is using you as a vessel. And so you don't have to be a keynote speaker. You just have to have, honestly, a willingness and a positive outlook and mindset. And you literally will not only help yourself, but help others. And I found therapy in helping others. Also, speaking of therapy, don't ever be afraid to go to therapy. Therapy is, again, as a guy, I was so anti-therapy, I don't need any help, but we all need help. And so I'm just always looking for different things. Again, I watch documentaries, I might read a Forbes article, I might watch a TED talk or something like that. Or honestly, simply, it might just be I'll be honest with you, sometimes it might just be going to the bar and having a great conversation with somebody. But as long as you go with that positive mindset of, all right, I'm going to talk to this person, I'm going to talk to this person, and I'm going to be positive, not, I don't want to do this, I don't want to go here, because you've already defeated yourself. That energy has already left you. That positive energy has already left you, and that negative energy is already there. And so I do believe there's a balance of good and evil. I do believe the more negative you are, the more energy that you give to, like, some like to say the devil or what have you, but you just you give opportunities for bad things to come into your life, into your space. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, one of the amazing things about the events industry, the meetings, events, hospitality industry, is this extraordinary sense of community, of support, of care, of genuine empathy and a desire to help and serve. And, for me, that's one of the things I love most about this audience that you're talking to today, Aaron. They have this baked into their blood, into their DNA as well. And it's such a beautiful thing. But sometimes you're right, we don't ask for the help. We don't rely on others. We don't share, perhaps. Right. And we can be our own worst enemies, can't we? Because that sort of spiral can happen. And we've got a question come in as well from one of the audience who've asked, when you get to that moment of recognizing that a situation is stressful, how do you stop? How do you take a step away? How do you change that so you don't go down into that pit?
Yeah. So when I was younger, I used to feel like I had to really tackle that issue right away, because you feel like everything has to happen today or tomorrow. Now I'm mature enough to kind of just, as you alluded to, just take a step back. Honestly, one of my de-stresses is I play video games. I love video games. I don't know if that's like the answer that I'm supposed to give, but I truly love playing video games. Again, just picking up the phone and finding somebody to talk to. It doesn't even have to be that, you don't even have to talk about the issue that you're going through. But again, I just really want to harp on perspective. I think if I had a different perspective, I wouldn't have had a panic attack. If I had a different perspective, I wouldn't have been in the hospital. I alluded to it earlier, the book Good to Great by Jim Collins. And so there's a quote that I love, and I'm probably about to butcher it, but there's a quote that starts off the first page of the first chapter. And it says that an unsatisfied death is a life in which you don't take chances. And so then the book goes on to say, most people are content with good schools, good churches, good jobs, good whatever, but very few people are willing to lose good to have great churches, great jobs, great schools. And so when I remember reading that, and that just gave me perspective, and it was like, as long as you are striving for greatness, even if you fall short of that, you will always be okay. And when you're striving for greatness, you will you will fail, you will fall. I mean, that's part of the process. Like literally, if you're trying 10 times, probably 8 times you will fail, but all you need is once or twice to work. So when you just change your perspective and understand this is the process, the same process that you and I are going through is the same process that Jeff Bezos went through, or Bill Gates went through, or Sean Combs, or anybody that, it might be considered a global icon has gone through, and in some cases still goes through. And that's the thing that keeps me going too. Like I know so many people that are famous or what have you, and they're still going through the same process that you and I are going through. So the process is the process. I feel like you can't cheat the process. Be true to yourself. Sometimes I'm just in the mirror and I'm just like, I'm Miriam, like I really need you every morning because you just make me feel so great with the introduction. So, I might just take that part and play it every morning or whatever I'm having, a down moment. But, you just have to find the things that work for you, and the things that work for me might not be for you guys, but you just have to find something. And it's okay. It could be the most quirkiest. Whereas some people like to pick apples, but you have to find something that is true to you and understand that you have time. Obviously there's always a sense of urgency, especially when you're like in the event space, because everything is so relegated to time and dates and things of that nature. But I think it's better to take a step back and breathe and kind of survey the situation than to rush into trying to find a solution. Because when we rush, we have tunnel vision. We don't necessarily see all the options, and we often make or continue the mistakes and down that path that got us to the point where we are, and to begin with,
Yeah. I've got a follow-up question. You talk about stepping back, which is really interesting, stepping away from something. But, in this time where most of us working from home, we're in our same environments, we don't necessarily have the ability to change state, to break state, to kind of put ourselves in another circumstance or context. How do you really separate out all of that stuff, and especially the kind of difference in work and home life, and take that step back when you need to?
Yeah, so you have to focus on the positive. So it's funny. This is the first time I put on a suit in probably a year. And I wasn't gonna put on a suit, but I was like, I need to feel normal. I actually have a suit. I'm fully dressed, everybody. And you have to do, it's weird, but you kind of have to do the things that make you feel normal. Like when everything was shut down in America, or at least in Atlanta, but we could still go take out, like I would just put on regular clothes. just to feel like I was doing something. And it was only regular clothes for 10 minutes, but at least I had a sense of normalcy. But also just thinking about the positive, like, I'm very frugal. I mean, I love to spend money on nice things, but I'm still very frugal. So I was like, look, I don't have to, my car, no wear and tear on my car. I'm not spending money on gas. I get to see my son more. I mean, there's so many positive things that happen from me just being at home. I've built out, a home office. I built a gym in my basement. So I've been able to like save money there. Now there's no excuse for me to work out. So again, it's literally turning that trash into treasure. And then, some of the basic things like it's funny. It's we sound entitled and we sound spoiled, but being in the house for 24 hours, 7 days a week can drive you absolutely crazy. So,
oh yeah.
But, you have the ability to, walk outside and, I never believed in nature walks until last year. So, I mean, that was some of the cool things that came out of last year. I did things that I would have never done, things that made me uncomfortable. Like I'm a city boy. I am not a nature person at all. I don't like bugs. I don't, any of that stuff. But, I found those things to be so therapeutic because I was so appreciative that I just got to get fresh air. So some of the things that we took for granted prior to 2020, you realize, wow, how impactful those small things were and still are. And so, again, just have a perspective, just honestly understand that there is somebody that would love and is more than willing to take your place, whether it's professionally or personally. And when you think about that, I think, it kind of, you buck up a little bit and you kind of get your shoulders right. And you're like, you know what, it's okay. It's not that bad. Matter of fact, it's not bad at all. Actually, it's a blessing that I get to be at home. I don't have to, you want to shower every day, but, I could be in a Zoom call and just brush my teeth. Nobody knows I haven't showered. So, I mean, just some of the fun, quirky things that you're able to do from working from home. And I'm glad that we're able to travel again. God willing, I get to do this with you guys again and get to travel and meet everybody in person. But in the meantime, you make do with what you have. And I think overall, I think we've seen so many amazing things from just the human race in 2020, how we've all come together, how we've all persevered, how we've all helped each other. I don't think necessarily we saw that consistently prior to that. And now, as crazy as things are, you really see the greatness of humanity. And so, my prayers to all of those people that have suffered in 2020, that lost loved ones, definitely prayers. But for those of us that are here, it's really a beautiful thing. Like there's a term I would always hear, like the beautiful struggle. And so for those of us that were able to make it out the struggle last year, it's a beautiful thing to really see what is happening to us. I look at all those people in the event space. I mean, I think that attendance will double and triple now because people will not miss an event, no matter what it is. People are like, you know what? I will never take for granted being able to go somewhere where I can have to walk, run, fly, crawl, whatever. I am coming to these events because it was taken away from us last year. And we never want that to happen again, and that's how I that's truly what I believe.
Well, that's also going to be music to a lot of people's ears. I think we are desperate to get back into the room with our friends and our colleagues, desperate to have that face-to-face connection, that sense of real, tangible, physical support and care, which we are renowned for in this industry. So thank you, Aaron, so much for sharing those insights. I've heard a lot that I guess I would distill as not giving ourselves excuses, taking the obstacles away, giving ourselves the opportunity to change that mindset, to stop the spiral, to catch ourselves in that moment of darkness and go, no, I'm going to choose to think in a different direction. So would you like just to give some final closing words to our wonderful audience before I then wrap this session?
Well, one, thank you guys for having me. I hope it's been insightful. I hope it's been educational. I hope it's been entertaining. And just, again, we're midway into, 2021. So basically 2022 is coming, and just start thinking really about what you want 2022 to be like and what you want that to look like. And taking the opportunity for those of us that are still trying to gradually get back into the workspace and the workflow, really taking an opportunity to figure out, how can I be better? How can I be better than I was in 2019 and subsequently 2020? How can I rebrand myself? How can I repurpose myself? Honestly, is this what I want to do? And if it's not, how can I change it and find something and walk in purpose. Like one thing I have learned is, and I want to leave you with this, you can be good at something, you could actually be great at something, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're walking in your purpose. So find what your purpose is. And when you find what your purpose is, that perspective, that trash to treasure, you'll always turn that trash into treasure because you're walking in your purpose and nothing truly can deny you. And I believe that, and I know that because that's been my whole life since at least 4th grade.
Amazing. So let's all get to turning these trashy moments. So trashy can also mean something else, can't it? So I would say rubbishy, because I'm British, you see. Rubbishy moments, turning our rubbish into treasure. But yes, turning that trash into treasure. Absolutely. Brilliant words. Thank you. So many comments, Aaron, about how inspirational it is. People, I think, have taken a lot away from your personal story. So I am going to represent the whole audience and give you a big, like, jazz handy clap. Can't quite do it on my tablet. But yes, thank you so much from all of us for your insight. Aaron Paxton Arnold, everybody, thank you for sharing with us today. Now, don't go anywhere from the platform because we have lots more coming up for you. The next session we have is the Industry Trends Report, and that's with Alistair Turner and Sharif Karamat, who are going to have some really interesting insights for us. So that's on the schedule. Do go and check that out and make sure that you add it to your personalized agenda. And I will be scouring social media for some of your comments and your posts, hear what's resonating with you, hear what you're thinking and feeling in this moment, so we get that sense of all being together in this brilliant environment that IBTMWired is creating for us all. Don't go too far, get yourself a drink, and we'll see you at the next session. See you in a moment.